and we will go from here. Okay, so, one of the things, let me know if you can, there's a little bit of a delay. I'm just going to assume that you can see my screen. I'm going to take you through this. All right? I'm just going to assume that you can see my screen. If you can't, I'll check back into the chat in just a couple of moments, but I think we're going to be good. So you should see a slide up that says either habits, info, time, task, or 3 pillars of productivity. What I want to tell you about are these 3 pillars of productivity that, as I've done a ton of research and testing experiments, everything that I've done in the last, at least 5 years, 10 years of being a productive person myself, is going to, I really thought about how I could distill it into the 3 pillars of things that really matter and what you can do to take your productivity to the next level. And I came down to these 3 pillars: the habits that you create, the way that you take in and manage information, and the way that you manage and execute on the time that you have and the tasks that you need to complete. So if we break that down a little bit further, and if y'all could, like I said, just drop into the chat real quick. Let me know that you can see. All right, Brian says we're good. So I'm going to go with Brian. Let me just break these down a little bit further. So we talk about the habits that are important for being really productive and focused. We got to learn how to make and break loops, those habit loops. So whether it is making good habit loops happen or breaking the bad ones that we kind of get stuck in, how we take care of those loops and recognizing patterns so that we can dive deeper into the things that are working for us, but also take ourselves out of things that aren't serving us very well. The way that I can think about information management, I think this is really big. One person who I think does an amazing job with this is Tiago Forte. He runs a course and kind of a whole brand now called Building a Second Brain. And the way that Tiago talks about this, I think, is better than anyone right now. And it's really thinking about how you take in your information intake, how you manage it, how you filter it, and then how to store and retrieve it later. So I'm going to give you a couple of ideas for that. And then we'll talk about how you manage time and tasks, the ACE method, and really understanding and being able to know what you are able to do and when you're able to do it, and building that creative confidence through all these steps, okay? So if you are excited about learning more about this, let me know in the chat. Let me get a heck yeah or a hell yeah, whatever you want to say, whatever you feel comfortable saying in your heart and in your mind. Let me know. I'll look forward to seeing that in 30 seconds when the lag is complete. All right, so let's go ahead and keep going. So I actually want to start with thinking about why I believe this is so important and why this matters so much. Because it's an understatement to say that there is a lot going on in the world. There is COVID, there is Black Lives Matter, there is racial tension, there is unemployment, there are so many things. There are generations worth of things happening all within the first 6 months of 2020. And so that is something that can lead to a lot of overwhelm. It can mess with our consistency. And as I was polling a lot of you, especially some of those people that, that top 5% that I was talking about, it led me to think about this is what people were saying, that you were overwhelmed, trouble with consistency in your habits and the things that you want to be doing, how to rebound when a habit got off track or things were difficult. Those were all things that were really challenging. Distractions and interruptions, getting caught in little tasks, finding time to do the things that you wanted to do. All of those things were really, really challenging. And I totally understand. I totally get that. That is something that, wow, just changed cameras. Sorry about that. But hey, I'm much clearer now. Those are all things. And you can tell me in the chat if these are all things that resonate with you. Is there anything that you would add to this list? Because I know I've experienced all of these myself. And I believe that the biggest thing for me that makes this really useful is being able to have the ability to rebound because I have the creative confidence to keep going even when things are challenging. I've fallen off the wagon or on the wagon, whichever one is the less desirable outcome. Okay, so maybe you've been experiencing this yourself. So when I do that, I want you to think about, this is what I think is really important. I want to like start with this information intake because it's something that I've talked a little bit about. If you watched my video, and one of you can grab it and share it in the chat. But one of the things in the video that I talked about of my complete productivity workflow is this ability to take in information, whether it's through your bullet journal, your regular journal, field notes, anything like that. How do you take in that information? How do you get it into a digital tool if you want to use that? And then how do you store it in such a way that you can retrieve and access it later whenever you need to? Okay. So these are all really important. So when you take a note, the way that I think about this is when you take a note, whether that is, like I said, on your phone, whether that is in a field notes or a bullet journal, or even on your computer, I want you to think about this thing I've called the stat filter, which is thinking about what is the space of your life that it goes into? How can you tag it for retrieval later? What is a short assessment of how you can organize this? And then of how you can kind of understand it at a quick glance. And then what is the time that it was created or the time that it was due? Okay, and I'll give you a really specific example of this. Before I give you the example, though, I'm going to show you exactly how I do this in Notion. I want to tell you about one other kind of key process that I've put together that is that is a part of the like space side, like what space of your life does this go into? You need to think about, is this something that I'm only going to do for a season, like a project in my life? It's very sport focused, stats and scars. But is this a season? So it has a definitive end date, like a project. Is this something that I'm going to be doing for my career? So ongoing. Is this an activity that just, is something that I do for fun? I'm going to keep doing, but isn't like, doesn't have like an ultimate goal. Like an activity for me is something like exercising or even, journaling myself. And then when do you need to retire the note, retire the task, retire the idea that you had? Okay. So these two key processes, the stat filter for understanding what to do with your notes, and then the SCAR method for understanding what space of your life does this kind of fall into? What bucket is it for? Or which bin, basket, whatever. Maybe trash wasn't the best visual example that I could have used. So let me show you a really specific example of how to do this in Notion. I did not realize like how close this camera was, but it's so much clearer. It's so much nicer. So let me show you how I would do this in Notion. I'm going to give you a really specific example because I know that all of you love specific examples. So let me go ahead and hop in here. Okay, so you should be able to see Notion right now. I'm just going to assume that when I say share screen, it's going to show up. So what I would do here, so this is how I would like capture a digital note inside of Notion. And I just have a really quick and easy way to open up this page in Notion because I added it to my favorites up here. So capture right here as a page. And so I just bring this up within a couple of taps on the phone. And then what I would do is if I had a new note, then what I would do is I would click on new and I would say, just give the title of the note. Let me try and think of one. Might be create a bullet journal basics ebook. I was actually thinking about this over my vacation because that's something that I need to work on is I also need to work on not thinking about work during vacation, but that's neither here nor there right now. So this idea, this first capture of an idea that I have would be to come into Notion, create a new note, a new little capture note right here in Notion. And then I'm going to say this is for a season because it has a definitive end. Once I create the ebook, it's going to be over. And then I'm going to add a tag for it, which would be something like, let's see, it's going to be teaching. Let's just add in teaching audience. And I could also create a new tag right here for products. Yeah, that's new. And then the assessment is just a quick 1-sentence description assessment of, if I take a quick glance at this page, what can I remember from it that is going to like give me that little light bulb, like, oh yeah, I remember that. So this assessment would be a short, affordable course or ebook with videos, templates, and checklists, all kinds of things, You're going to love it. And then in Notion, you can create a time column right here that is automatically going to give you the time that the note was created. Now you can do this. You could also instead give it like a due date time, which would be like this date right here. And I could say like time due if I wanted to do that instead. There we go. And then I could just say like, okay, I need to have something done on this by next Friday. But I don't do that very often. I prefer, in this instance, in the capture, for it to be like time created, because then I can look at this and see this is like when I first had this idea captured, how long has it been, and do I still need to do something with it? Now, this is like the really quick capture. This is how I go through the stat filter, and you can see that I have columns for each of these. I'm going to look at the chat in a couple of minutes to kind of loop back on this. So if you have any questions about this process specifically, go ahead and put it in now, and I will come back in when the lag has caught up. But this is for that space, that SCAR method. So if I look here, this is where I created season, career, activity, retire. So I just select, is this something that I'm doing for a season? Is this an activity for me? Like I'll come into some of these other ones and keep going. But then these are the tags. So I could filter in Notion based on like, let me see all the notes related to learning. So I could do that by saying, add a filter where a tag contains notes like this, or not notes, learning. There we go. So now that just automatically filters everything that has to do with learning. So I can kind of look at that and see these are the things that I tagged. I can refer. I could also use a tag, something that I've done in, this is like a public demo one, but I also have one that I filter based on the ideas that I might have to include in the email newsletter. So a lot of things that I could do right here. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Okay. And then this is the short assessment and then the time created. Okay. Let me take a quick look at the chat and we'll see if there's anything. Okay. No questions right now, but I will come back in. And if you do have any questions about this, we can loop back in and see it. All right. But that is how I would use that stat filter to understand the space. And come back in to understand the space of my life that it belongs in, the tag for easy retrieval later, a short assessment so I can understand what it was at a glance, and the time created so I can, when I'm doing a review, I can come back in and say, I can come back in and say like, okay, I haven't done anything with this for a month. Is there a small action I can take to move forward on this? Or do I just need to go ahead and retire it I could still access it later if I wanted to, but that way it's kind of off my plate visually, okay? Because one of the things that I've heard, and I've experienced in kind of the David Allen getting things done GTD method, is a frustration that your capture box gets like way too big, way too big and unmanageable. And so that's where the created time comes in. You can see like, this is an idea that I had 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Maybe it's just time to either take a small action to make progress on it, or to take a step back and be like, okay, I can just retire this for now. It's easy to access later if I want to, but that way it's off my capture page visually. Helps me feel better. Maybe it wouldn't change anything for you. Okay. Sarah, personal plan is free. Thank you, Andrew, for answering that. I would also recommend, and one of you can drop her page link, her YouTube channel link into the chat, but Marie Polin is the Notion queen. If you have questions about Notion, check her channel out. It's the best. She's awesome. Okay, let me go through a couple other things with you. And then I'll tell you about something if you're interested. I've got a cool opportunity that really only a few spots left, but may resonate with some of you, and it would be a lot of fun to have some more people be a part of it. Andrew's in it. He knows what I'm talking about. So here we are back on the slides. And so once you can understand how to manage the information, you got to start thinking about this habit loop that you can create to better understand how to make good habits happen and break the bad habits that no longer serve you well. Maybe they never served you well, but now they definitely don't, and you need to know how to unlearn them. So if that's the case, there's a really simple, this came from Charles Duhigg's excellent book, The Power of Habit. And there's this 3-step habit loop: cue, routine, reward. Let me give you a specific example. The example of building a journaling habit, starting and being consistent with journaling. So the cue that I do, and I'll elaborate on this even more in just a moment. The cue that I have is when I wake up in the morning, I see my journal by the coffee maker. I use a Chemex because I'm a hipster apparently, but also my cousin gave it to me as a present because he is an amazing coffee person. So I've been using a Chemex. It's right there, and I see my journal. And so that is the cue of seeing visually my journal by the coffee. It's not like on some bookshelf. It's not up on my desk. It's somewhere that first thing in the morning, I see it. And then the routine is that I journal while the coffee is brewing. So I give myself a little bit of a built-in timer. Okay, that's the routine that I have. I start to brew the coffee and I journal while the coffee is brewing. It works out really well. And then the reward, something really simple but great. The reward is that I get to drink great coffee once it's done brewing. So you can see how that fits together. The cue is I put the journal by the coffee, so it's visually there. The routine is that I journal while the coffee is brewing. And then the reward is that I get to drink great coffee once it's done. Okay. So we can break this down a little bit further, because one of the things that can be incredibly important and valuable is understanding that if you want to start a new habit, it's often best to hook it up to an existing boring or mundane habit that you're already doing. So for me, every morning, I'm drinking coffee. And so the environmental cue that I have is to put my journal by the coffee, by the Chemex, so that I see it first thing. And then I'm hooking it up to the coffee brewing habit routine that I already have. If and when I'm in a routine of journaling at night, then what I'll do is I'll put my journal by the phone charger, because I have a habit of plugging my phone in before I go to bed. So then my journal is right there. I also sometimes environmental cue, I will put the journal on top of my computer. And so that when I come in to start work for the day, I see my journal right there. on top of the computer. And again, it gives me that visual cue, like, okay, I can write a few sentences before I start work for the day. And the hookup that I'm using in the evening is that I'll often do it right after I'm done brushing my teeth. I don't journal and brush my teeth at the same time. Okay. Go ahead and let me know in the chat if this makes sense. Is this resonating with you? Is this helpful? I love to hear. Give me a heck yeah, hell yeah. Definitely let me know. Look at some of the other questions. Brian was saying, so the retire space is filed away. Yes, it's like archive. I wouldn't necessarily call it deleted because, anything digitally, you don't really need a lot of times to worry about that kind of space. So, okay. Good. So there's something else important that we have to talk about, which is how to rebound when things get a little crazy. All right. I'm sure, man, I'm guessing we've all experienced this in the past several months. We got to be able to rebound when stuff gets a little crazy. Now, what I have found, we'll talk about this a little bit more towards the end, is that having the creative confidence to say, this is something that I've done in the past and I'm able to do again is the best way to like be able to rebound. So for me with like journaling, because I've journaled, you can't really see them, but all of those up there, all those right there are journals from the past several years. Because I've done that now, I have the confidence that when I don't write in my bullet journal or my regular journal, or, oh my gosh, I haven't bullet journaled in a few days. I'm terrible at it. I'm not any good anymore. I don't have those moments anymore because I'm like, I have been journaling for several years. And so all I need to do is this literal small thing. And what you're going to do is it's the same habit loop, friends, the same habit loop, cue, routine, reward, but you're going to give it the same loop, but a small start and focus on the system first. So again, kind of going back to the journaling example, I would still do the same thing. I would put it by the coffee, or maybe I would try the nighttime routine and put it by the charger, but really focus on the small start. So instead of thinking like I normally write about a page. Yeah, I normally write about a page, not always. See, this is not a page. But I only tell myself that I need to write a sentence or the highlight of the day or something that I'm grateful for going into the day or something that I'm excited about, even something that I'm stressed about. Oftentimes journaling for me is a form of stress relief and it is self-therapy, but I give myself a really small start and I focus on completing the system, completing the loop first. So I don't get caught up in like, okay, I have to write 1, 2, 3 pages. It's like, all I have to do is see the journal, write in the journal, drink my coffee. Where's the coffee? Drink the coffee, and hurrah, I have completed the habit loop. I've made a little rebound, but I've still made a rebound. And then once I'm able to be consistent with it, I start to build that confidence up again. Okay. So all of these things, like I said, I'm going to skip a little section here for you because we're getting to about 25 minutes right now. And some of this we've already talked about, time and tasks, daily review. Actually, I'll talk about the daily review real quick. I can't ask you in real time because there's a delay. But one of the ways that really helps with all of this information management, the stat filter, your habit loop, putting together your plan for the day, reviewing the day that has just happened and planning for tomorrow is number one, make sure you give yourself time. You want to observe what happened during the day. Don't judge it, just observe it, report on it, and then preview the next day. So these are all things that I do to create a good daily review. And oftentimes it's just like 10 or 15 minutes. Again, I'm just asking myself, observing, reporting on what happened. not judging it, not being like, you said you were going to do this and you failed, or you were going to write 500 words and you only wrote 5 words. You failed on that thing. You said you were going to do an interview like this. I would look back and I'd be like, okay, let me just observe what happened. Not going to judge it, just going to report on it. That's really, 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 really important. And then I'm going to use the information that the observations and what I know about tomorrow to preview the next day and say, what does tomorrow look like? Because doing all of these things together gives me the creative confidence that no matter the situation that is occurring, I have the confidence to start again. I can take a break because I have the confidence to start again. I can start again, even if I didn't mean to take a break, because I have done this before. So I want to challenge all of you that are watching this. I want to challenge all of you that are watching this to think of a time in your life or a situation in your life where there is something that you're really confident in doing, and you know, even if you took a little bit of time off, purposefully or accidentally, you'd be like, I could start doing that again. I could start doing that again, because then you can use that same mental trick on other parts of your life. Okay. Cool stuff. All right. Let me look at some of the other questions. All right. Let's see. Brian says totally makes sense and simple. Sarah, I think linking the existing habits to new ones will be helpful. It will absolutely be helpful. Definitely. Any suggestions for the overwhelming capture box? I'm in the crazy stages. So what I would do, Sarah, this is a good question. What I would do is I just go through and start to get rid of the things that either maybe they don't matter anymore, or you can think of it in okay, what is, again, a small action that I can take? So you may find there's a lot of things that you can retire or archive. You may also find that, okay, there's a small thing that I can do to make progress on this so that I can, kind of move a little bit further down the road with it. Okay. But definitely be willing to delete some things. Let's see. Maria, great question. This is something that my new idea bullet journal basics course is gonna help you with. But how to avoid losing attention on ideas by getting obsessed with making the journal pretty. This may sound like an overly simplistic answer, but stop yourself from feeling like your bullet journal needs to be pretty. There's nothing wrong with pretty bullet journals. They are pretty, and I like looking at them. But for me, I take a stand on, I think your journal needs to be a functional tool for you to get things done, or to just get your thoughts out, get your ideas out. It's okay if it's messy, because it's for you. It's for you first and foremost. And especially if you're not, wanting to put, pretty pictures of your bullet journal on Instagram or YouTube, then who cares how it looks? As long as you can understand it. Now, if you have trouble understanding what you're putting into your journal and how to keep track of it, that's a whole nother question. But don't let yourself get distracted by how many, I think my bullet journal needs to be pretty because I see pretty bullet journals on YouTube and Instagram. Look through my videos. They may look clean, but they're not pretty. It's just words and lines and the occasional circle. So I hope that helps. Definitely focus more on your output than the decoration. Function over fashion. Absolutely. Okay, let me tell you one other thing before we get going. If you have any other questions about this, please just drop them into the chat and I will get to them at the end. But some of you are going to find this really interesting. Something that I think if you've been thinking man, I'd really like to work with Matt on something more specific, then I have an opportunity that some of you might be interested in. I think some of you will be interested in. So what I have is I'm putting together a mastermind program for this summer, like a productivity, very focused on how you can succeed, how you can level up your productivity. There are going to be guest experts like Maria Polin, like Tiago Forte, Amy Landino, Jeff Sheldon. A bunch of awesome people are confirmed for this. I'm really, really excited to share all of this with you, because what it's going to do is help you build a clear, calm, productive lifestyle in 12 weeks. So it starts in about starts in about 11 days. So it's coming up pretty soon. Andrew is in it. I saw that he was here in the chat, and some other people might be in here as well. But if you have watched this webinar and you thought to yourself, this is something that I'm interested in, this is something I'm really excited about, this is something that I want help with, then I can help you with that, okay? Because it will transform how you think and act about work and about probably your life in general. But this will be application only. I'm going to share the application link in just a second. It's weekly group coaching to unlock your potential. Every week, we will have a live stream call, a lot like this. You'll be able to ask questions. It'll be like more meeting style. It won't, it won't be over a webinar. We'll all be face-to-face, kind of working together. There's going to be a community where we all get to work together and collaborate together, hold that accountability for each other. And then the reason that I put this together, besides everything that I've already talked about, is I realized that the biggest moments of transformation, the biggest times of transformation for me, from a productivity perspective, from like a self-growth perspective, from a business career perspective, were when I had someone to guide me through it, a community to go alongside it with me, and then specific clear action steps that I could take in order to like get further, to do more than I ever thought possible. So if that is something that you are interested in, if you are having trouble finding time, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel caught in the little tasks, if you feel like messed up by distractions and interruptions, having trouble with consistency, and just wondering, how am I going to rebound from something like this? Then what I want you to do is go to mattragland.com/survey. There's no pressure here, and just fill this out. What you will get from me with this is we'll do a 30-minute call. We'll talk about your biggest productivity problem, how I can help you with it. The very least, you're going to get like a 30-minute one-on-one call with me, which I wasn't planning on doing that today, on offering all of that, but it's something that I know is going to be really valuable for all of you. And whether or not the mastermind is a good fit for you and vice versa, it is something that just this call is going to be beneficial to you, because it's going to unlock some things for you. I'm going to give you like really specific, great advice for how you can make incredible progress in the next several days, weeks, and months. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. If you have any other questions, just go ahead and drop them in to the chat. But I'm going to start wrapping this up. Look for a new video from me next week. And it'll be something that probably going to be doing. I don't know if it'll be this week or next week, but doing the review for the Baron Fig Grow daily journal. Have a couple other things about habits, a more specific probably habit video that I'll put together. So thank you so much, everybody, for being a part of this. Thank you for rolling with me on something new that none of us expected on the call today. But hope all of you have a great rest of your week and into the weekend here in the US. Happy July 4th weekend. And email me, sign up for the email list, mattragland.com/thinkers, and you'll get everything that I have. We'll have a great time, and you will learn and grow. Thanks so much, everybody. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for your comment in the chat. Andrew. I really appreciate that. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Talk to you soon.